Hello and welcome everyone to episode 149 of One Piece at a Time, the One Piece read-through podcast where we read and discuss 5 chapters of the One Piece manga each and every week. I'm your host, Derrick, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host and freelance letterer at Shonen Jump, Brandon Bovia. How you doing, Brandon?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm, of course, Brandon Bovia, letterer of manga like Dragon Ball Super, Kaiju number 8, many more. And I think we have what I would describe as like the punk hazardiest of punk hazard episodes. Like when I think back on my memories of Punk Hazard, it is kind of this stuff that I think it's just like, okay, this set is kind of the most like, all right, that's what this arc is. Got it.
Well,
for better or worse.
Yeah, that's the weird thing. It feels in some ways unfair to judge the entire arc by this section, but this is the culmination. We've had some really good things to say about Punk Hazard up this point, where it's not like deep or anything, but it's been fun and varied and chaotic, and that's still continuing with this arc or with this section. But I also kind of saw what you were talking about as I was reading it, where I was really enjoying some stuff, but there's also something about it that just sort of took me out of the moment a lot of times.
Yeah.
And I'm really hoping the discussion actually pinpoints where that is, because I can't quite
we're trying
put
to
my
figure
finger
it
on
out.
it.
I feel like when we say, because one complaint I definitely, and as a common complaint for this arc, is that like there is just kind of a lot of running around sometimes, and like there are sections of this here that I think feel a little aimless, and in the moment, as we'll get to it, sometimes it feels like I don't know if Oda really knew what he wanted some characters to do, but he had to kind of keep everybody moving, so some stuff just feels like, I guess we'll just do this now.
He set it up in such a way that nobody can remain still because of the gas, but then he's like, oh crap, I gotta figure out things for these guys to actually do. So
yeah, that might be part of it. It contributes to this sort of aimless feeling, certainly. Again, not bad by any means, but I definitely I started to see the cracks in terms of its structure
a little bit, especially as we'll get into. There's a lot of points in this set, especially where it's like this thing happened off screen.
Oh yeah.
We'll only talk about it, and it's like it's not as satisfying, but it's fine.
Yeah, I think that will. I don't know if it's not an issue that bothers me all of the time necessarily, but I think that is a sort of a storytelling trope that Oda will employ more and more often to keep things moving, which makes me wonder if that is often the anime's time to flesh stuff out that the Oda has decided he doesn't have time for.
Yeah, it's like, you anime guys can take care of this, which again adds value to the anime. Yeah,
sometimes there's crucial stuff that I think kind of gets skipped, that the anime has time to add. Sometimes, and of course, there's still plenty of padding in the anime, so it's never a perfect solution.
No.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of a weird set this week.
Yeah, just a bit, but let's get into it and figure this out with chapter 681, Luffy versus Master, and we see Jinbei's plan for Caribou. Just leave him at G5.
Drop him. I laughed when I saw this. It's just Jinbei's like, all right, dump him. Here you go.
He's with the Navy. He's captured. I don't have to deal with him. Bye.
Yeah, and not only that, but G5, who certainly don't have the most sterling reputation.
No, and you can see why. Like, everything's busted up and cracked. I actually like this dual storytelling when we've heard so much about G5, and now we're getting a little view of it.
Yeah. I like, God, like their little like watchtowers are like bandaged up. Like this place is a crap hole.
Yeah, really not in great shape. Even the dock is just dilapidated and ready to fall apart. Like, Smoker, you think you'd find a tighter ship here?
Yeah, you'd think so.
As we get into it, we ended off last time with Luffy punching Caesar, and we begin this time with Caesar reacting to that punch. And God, Caesar has a lot of great faces in this chapter.
He does. Lots of great faces. I do kind of, because as we were building up to this, like Smoker was here looking for Virgo, and I think he kind of notices very quickly, oh, he's not here.
Yeah, and he thinks back to Law basically saying like, hey, don't get in Luffy's way, stay away from Caesar, just you do your thing, I'll do mine. And he's like, nope, Virgo's not here. bye.
Yeah, basically.
You're on your own, Luffy. I'm going to go find Virgo.
Yeah.
Which feels appropriate. It doesn't feel like a Vegeta moment where like, I can take advantage of this. It's like, nah, he doesn't. It's a pirate and an evil scientist fighting. It's like, whatever. I got nothing to do with this.
Yeah. I think Smoker realizes where he's needed. That I definitely don't think it's like, oh, he just like ditched Luffy. You know, Luffy's got it. Well, he should, as we'll see.
Yeah.
In theory.
I mean, as we see with this fight, once he gets through all the tricks, he'll be fine. Mm-hmm. Caesar does have a lot of interesting tricks. Like I love this. The like again tying into how many different gases he can become. He just makes himself combustible, sets out some matches, and just blows himself up in order to try to blow Luffy
exactly.
up. That's cool.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I feel like we see a lot of really interesting ideas with this gas powers here, which I really appreciate, and in ways that I had mostly forgotten all of like the different ways that all these different applications of gas.
Yeah.
But I do like here in the middle of the fight, like, you know, Caesar's just kind of like, why are you even coming after me, Straw Hat? Just like, I don't know, if I capture you, something neat is supposed to happen. It's just like, all right.
Oh, so you've joined up with Law. So hey, he betrayed me, so he'll probably betray you too. And Luffy's just immediately like, I'll decide that. So let's fight, basically. And that's when Caesar unleashes his sucking up all the oxygen, and Luffy is prepared for this. This attack is called the Land of Nothing, and Luffy's able to back up enough for him to get out of that area where there's no oxygen and get a breath in.
Yeah.
So
it's got a range, basically.
Yeah, and I like that Luffy has kind of figured out devil fruits to a degree, where he always figured out to some degree that he didn't, maybe not considered ranges and whatnot, but it's like, no, this is the distance. And it seems like a pretty cool evolution of what Luffy's capable of.
Yeah, definitely.
He's like, all right, gotta go long range. So here's Jet Pistol, and bops his head off, but Caesar's already in the move with that form that we originally saw him in. Was sort of like, I don't even know what to call that form.
Yeah.
Looks like moving pasta.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
But he gets close enough that Luffy starts suffocating again. He takes the oxygen, concentrates it into like a sword hilt, and creates a flame sword.
That's awesome. He's got a lightsaber.
Yeah, he basically makes himself a lightsaber that I just think of like a welding tool almost.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And attacks Luffy. Luffy's still able to dodge and raises his neck up enough that he can take a breath in. So thank you for that. Gum powers. Puts on the hockey and gets ready for his jet Gatling, which, again, great faces from Caesar, because Caesar has no way to block this. He's like, oh no, I'm screwed.
Yeah, that would have been it if it weren't for Monet making an igloo out of nowhere to block the jet Gatling.
Yeah, and she's impressed that because like, not just any pirate could break this wall. And you see this just, I don't know I couldn't tell what it was. Like she said igloo, so I guess it is ice, but it looked like stone to me. But yeah, it's all made of this super thick ice that protects Caesar. It's like, oh, you have devil fruit powers. You're not just a bird woman. And he's just like, hey, you need to flee because this fight is pointless. And he's like, all right, bye. I got plans.
Basically.
I think this is cool. I don't think we've ever seen Luffy fight a woman before. So him against Monet is unique.
Yeah, at least not Amazon Lily's the only other situation I could think of.
Yeah, and that one didn't quite feel as serious in that case.
Yeah, definitely.
But I like Monet here grabbing him with their harpy claws. It's like, oh, if anything happens to him, Joker's going to get rid of me. And all Luffy says is like, Flamingo? What's up with him? And that's when we switch over.
Yeah. That's the $1 million question, isn't it?
Yeah. What is up with Flamingo? That's a good question. But yeah, we move away and check in on Sanji and Virgo. Basically, it's like, oh crap, the alarm is going off again and the gate ahead is closing, so we got to keep moving. And they're all wondering like, okay, why is Blackleg Sanji actually helping out G5? And Sanji seems to be getting some good hits in on him. He's like
he straight up knocks Virgo into a wall.
Yeah, he's doing quite good. And he's like, stop watching me and go. They're going to shut us in here with the gas. And already you can see the other one starting to open. It's like, yeah, we got to go. Even though Virgo was just kicked through a wall, it's like he's almost like a Terminator because he doesn't seem affected at all.
Yeah, that's a good point of comparison, actually. the way that he rises out from the rubble is very Terminator-like. And to the point where even Sanji's like, you're probably made of metal or something, right? Which we don't get an answer to, but I do love just like this little bit of exchange we get of their fight, where like it's a kickoff, basically.
Yeah. I love this line. It's like, oh, because he's trying to kill his own men. It's like, oh, you're the kind of guy my captain hates the most. And they again, as you said, have a kickoff. And as they connect, it's hard to tell because I think it's trying to show something internal. And the colors don't seem like one of them is striped. And like, I don't think either of them have striped pants as far as I can tell in these shots.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be an X-ray. I think that's.
Oh, it is an X-ray. Because I saw the cracking. I was like, a bone is breaking. And it's safe to assume that that's with Sanji's pained look. Is like, oh crap, he's strong enough that Sanji just kind of cracked the bone.
Yeah, exactly. But like, at least I think I like that exchange because they're at least kind of keeping pace with each other, even if like Sanji's struggling a little bit, but it's not like I'm satisfied with how this fight turned out.
Yeah, it feels pretty even, but Sanji is definitely on the back foot. But the G5 is like, hey, Blackleg, poison gas is almost there and gate's closing. You better get over here. And that's when we get an announcement from Structure D that Trafalgar Law has infiltrated the SAD manufacturing room. And that definitely affects Caesar's like, oh, is he insane? If he goes in there, he'll bite off more than he can chew.
I love Monet's kind of putting things together. We don't quite know, what, but she's like, oh, so, he's going to kidnap the master and then going after the SAD. Like, I finally see what you're after.
And Virgo just says, oh, he became a warlord just to get into that room. Like, okay, apparently just becoming a warlord is just the best way to get what you want.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Because the rules are made up and they don't matter.
Yeah, worked for Blackbeard and it seems to be working for Law. So
yeah,
apparently he's got one nightmare of a scenario playing down his head. He's going to unleash hell in the new world, and
I love that smirk from him too.
What is Law up to? He just has this very satisfied smile as he's in this room, and that's how we end. It's like, what the.
Yeah,
this chapter was an excellent chapter. This is what it was like. Yes, this is so good.
Yeah, there was a lot of we had two fights basically. We had the storytelling is at its best when it is kind of dangling that mystery in front of us. Mm-hmm. And I think this one is kind of it feels like we are so close. It feels like we are learning just a little. We're almost there, figuring out what Law is here to do. Which has been kind of like one of the biggest mysteries ever since we got here.
I guess that's a good point. It's like, yeah, the mystery is what has been the best part. Like all these dangling carrots about what's all about this, what's all about this. It's been continued along throughout. Mm-hmm. And as long as it keeps dangling that, we were all always interested in it. So yeah, it's fascinating that way. Yeah, we do have an SBS. Basically, people just ask about birthdays and heights and ages now that the time skips happened. And what's interesting here is that Oda points out that the sender of the first letter asking about this is just 10 years old.
Oh, my God.
And it's like, oh, yeah, they just started reading this and they're just going from here. They don't know where they started from. It's like, oh, what's their current information? And yeah, they wouldn't know that. And obviously, there's a lot of volumes to catch up on. So it's cool. He's like, yeah, here's the breakdown.
Yeah, and at this point, we are at 15 years of One Piece.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Amazing. Well, let's go ahead and move on to chapter 682, Puppet Master. And we've lost Jinbei, but I love the intersection of what's going on here, where we learned about Yarasugi during the main thing. And here's Caribou being dropped off with Yarasugi.
And just the thought bubbles, the burning, all the torture.
The great thing, again, it plays into his exaggerated nature where it's burn at the stake and spear him with swords, and hang him. And, I'm like,
It's
okay,
so brutal.
fair.
He's really earning that name.
Yes.
And I just, because it's Caribou, I can't be like, oh no, how horrible.
It's like, yeah, it's fine. Even the guys in the background bringing in logs. It's like, okay, yeah, this is perfect.
Yeah, I'm down for this.
I was like, okay, we lost Jinbei, but I'm still entertained. So
Yeah,
good on you. We get into the chapter itself, and Law has arrived in this SAD manufacturing room, and we see just this giant container marked.
I love
SAD.
this shot. The scale of it is so cool.
This feels like something out of Resident Evil, be honest.
It does.
Like,
it
you
does.
see
Yeah.
these giant vats of something, and here comes Law, just with the most evil grin we've ever seen him have.
Yes.
Walking up to this thing.
The way that they're building this up, oh, he must have become a warlord just to get here.
Dude's getting ready to unleash the T virus, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
We move away from that, and yes, the door has closed behind on the section between A and B, and Marines. Actually, I think the G5 Marines all got through. The minions that work for Caesar, no, they did not.
Yeah.
And it seemed like Sanji and Virgo got caught back there as well. But it turns out, no. Sanji was able to jump something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's another thing that feels like I feel like we kind of needed to see that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is. It's a little unclear. But I do like one. Of course, he comes swooping in, ready to flirt with Tashigi. But I love that now at this point, like the G5 guys are rooting for Sanji. They're like, "Yeah, go Blackleg!"
And all the while, Sanji's just like, "Hey, I don't want any compliments from men. Cut that out." And Sanji even admits, like, "That was close. If I had kept fighting him," you get the sense that Sanji would have lost that fight. Which, boy, does that paint interesting picture for Virgo.
Yeah, and it is only because it seems that like he dipped because Law decided to go do a thing, and it seems like my understanding is that was kind of the more important priority.
Yeah, and that's got an interesting thing here from Tashigi, who's the men still can't believe that actually was Virgo. It has to be a fake. And Tashigi's like, I'm just going to go with this. Yeah. Yes. He would never do anything. Yeah. So that was a fake. So the real one was like a father to you. So let's just worry about saving those children. And that refocuses the men.
Yeah. I did not go into this expecting to really get kind of attached to the G5 guys.
You wouldn't think so, but they're that ragtag group you see sometimes, in much the same way as the Frankie family.
Yeah, very similar.
Very good comparison point. And I liked, again, Tashigi's relationship with them and how she's like, almost like a mother's like, I got to protect these poor boys because they just can't handle it.
Yeah.
We move over to Virgo, who's vertical as he's going through. Again, his comedy gimmick doesn't really work, but man.
I think in this case, I think he's doing moonwalk.
Oh yeah, the moonwalk,
Since we saw that he already has a finger pistol, so he probably has the other 6 powers too.
Yeah, but I'm just saying he's just freaking cool. Like he is an intimidating boss.
But he's even more intimidating.
Yeah, because he's talking, and we turn the page, and here he is. He's informing Don Quixote do Flamingo about what's going on. And we get our first real sense of what Do Flamingo is all about. Like the hedonistic qualities of him, I guess is the best way to put it. Yeah. Because this
is some really fun characterization in this scene. I feel like you understand what's going on. And also, this is our first peek at Dressrosa.
Hard to say what Dressrosa is all about just looking at it here, because it just seems like a resort place with him hanging out by a pool with a lot of ladies just hanging around. And he doesn't seem picky, I guess is the best way to put it, because in the bigger shot of him, like where he's actually in it, you have 3 very typical women hanging out. Like you got like the sexy women and the woman in almost a thong, the butt hanging out, serving drinks and all that. And he's just in that lounge state of like, yes, have the women draped over me. But Well, in the close shot, I have the uncomfortable like little girl with the eye patch monocle eating berries. Like, I don't like the fact that he's hanging out with a lot of those sexy women, and there's a child there too. But
yeah, don't worry. The reason that she's there is a reason for that. That's not creepy.
Yeah, that's the more that she's shown more as we go along. So I'm like, okay, there's nothing creepy. This is a different.
Yeah,
this is not.
Don't worry about it. But I understand why you would think that from the context.
Yeah, it's also kind of like all women, because as far as I can tell, there's a person in an inner tube in the pool in front of Doflamingo. Unless that's one of his men, I think that's just a bigger lady.
Yeah.
Which means he just likes all women. Doesn't matter what they look like.
Say, I think if there's one thing you can glean about Doflamingo from this scene is that, because he's on the phone with Virgo, just kind of like, oh, Law betrayed us. Whatever.
Yeah, it's like, I thought that would happen. And after I took him in like a little brother, watching over his growth, such a shame.
Yeah. And now I explicitly remember, because while this conversation is happening, I was like, what on earth is going on? Because he's on the phone with Virgo, and then this girl in a maid outfit like rolls up and like shoots him in the face. Just tears coming out of her eyes.
Yeah, she's all upset because we see a crash come through the page or the panel before, and then all of a sudden just a maid outfit gun lady showing up. Actually, I think she has a gun. She has a gun arm. She has a machine gun on her back and a sword. So she's packing, like she's straight out of another manga, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And that he gets blown up. He's just butt and legs in the air. He's still on the phone, trying to figure out what Law's up to. And he's like, if I were him, I would kidnap Caesar. No, I'd actually kill him. And after all, Caesar's the only man in the world who knows how to manufacture the SAD. And then, if that happened, then he would be the one with a problem on his hand, the person with a problem on his hands.
And that's the crazy thing. He's relaying all this stuff very calmly to Virgo, while this woman in tears blows him up, sees him knocked down. He's still just giving info out. He's not acknowledging her presence whatsoever. She tries to slash at him. He just casually dodges to the side, and we start seeing his other men. It looks like she has a devil fruit as well, because she must have like the weapon fruit or something, because she had a gun hand and then she has a sword hand.
Yeah, there's something going on here. And then she just gets shot.
Yeah. I don't think she's dead, because Oda does not toss out a devil fruit like that and not do anything with it.
There's definitely more going on here. Like this is such a bizarre scene for just how much is going on, and sort of the kind of, I explicitly remember when I read this chapter for the first time like a decade ago, I was like, what is happening right now?
I mean, it shows the threat of Doflamingo for sure. Like, it is an amazing character piece, and also gradually shows off more of his crew. We get the person who shoots her in the head. I don't know if kills her, but shoots her in the head. Is just completely wrapped up in gears and a mask and glasses and a top hat.
It's very steampunk.
Yeah, he looks awesome.
Very steampunk.
Love that design.
I actually don't remember who that character is at all. I recognize a lot of the other characters in the scene. The steampunk looking guy. Like, who are you again?
Oh wow! Like, he's the one that stood out the most. Like, that's just a
definitely
cool design.
I feel like I would remember that.
Yeah. So, and I was just double checking something, because then we get this like a close up shot on just this big guy with a beard and whatnot. And he seemed to be in like a bathing suit as well. But I was like, oh, is that striped? Is that who we saw before? And like, no, there's swirls.
Okay, yeah, not the same person.
He has this weird way of talking where he's like, cool your Jetson, baby 5. What have you got against the young master? It's like, okay, that's a weird crew member.
Yes.
And yeah, she absolutely is still alive. It's like, no, I can't forgive him this time. I'm going to kill that scumbag if the last thing is I do.
So she's been crossed by Doflamingo somehow.
We see just a little more of the little girl just eating those candies, we'll say. Just sort of paying attention. And then we see this old lady who honestly kind of reminds me of Big Mom, just not as big and has glasses. And an older man as well.
Oh, and they're both playing cards against each other. And, they're just like, what are you going to do? He's leading a rebellion against us. I do like sort of the conclusion that Doflamingo comes to during the scene is like, you need to get rid of Law. Kill him so atrociously, so wretchedly that he regrets he was ever born.
And it's like he's smiling, But I notice he has veins on his forehead, so I think he actually is upset.
Yeah. That's kind of the fun thing. And I feel like Joker is such a good alias for Doflamingo because he does kind of he really does feel like a wild card in this case.
For sure. We got Virgo's response, and I really do wonder about the hierarchy of power with all these people we see, especially with Virgo, who refers to Doflamingo as Dofi.
Yeah. So
that's pretty familiar. Like, is Virgo second in command?
I honestly don't know. And it's a clear difference too, right? Because the old lady calls him young master, which I think is, and the big burly dude too.
Yeah. So
some of these characters are definitely
respect there.
And it might just be because of, I don't know, is it like a term of familiarity? But, because Virgo is maybe, because he's in the Marines, he might be sort of separate. Like their relationship might be less one-sided than maybe, say, the folks who call him young master.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
maybe. I have no idea. This woman, like I said, it looked like she got shot in the face, but she's still fine and she's still attacking. And all Virgo's things like, I'll take a picture to show your body using the camera I just bought in Dressrosa. I bet you didn't buy any cameras. All right, I didn't buy any cameras. It's like, okay, his jokes always fall flat. I don't know what it is.
It is such a weird kind of bad joke. I do like, though, like, again, as we're sort of finishing off this conversation, and the girl in the maid outfit, they dropped her name earlier. So this is Baby 5.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it's...
Yeah.
Because I saw a Cool Your Jetson Baby 5. I was like, I don't know what Jetson is.
Yeah, that's just his gimmick.
Okay.
Yeah, is to just put in at the end at the end of words. But while Doflamingo's still on the phone, like he's clearly using his devil fruit powers on Baby 5, the way that she's like struggling and then kind of like points a gun at herself.
Jeez, it's so freaking dark, and it's just nothing. It's like good on the attempt, but boy, it definitely raises him as a threat. Like he's always felt like a threat, but man, I'm excited for Dressrosa.
I think you're going to like Doflamingo a lot, and if this scene is any indication of just how he handles himself and everything,
I've had years of being intrigued by Doflamingo and wondering how he's gonna how it's all gonna break down, and to finally be coming up on the arc that handles that, I am so excited.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I like that Doflamingo knows what he's dealing with, where he's talking to the rest of them. It's just kind of like, watch out for law, but also Straw Hat. Like, he's awakened to Supreme King hockey, so he's kind of a problem. But he's going to send Baby 5 and Buffalo, who we haven't, I don't know if that's another.
Maybe Buffalo is the big guy?
That would make the most sense.
That'd be my guess.
I kind of don't remember.
I don't know. Yeah, but it is interesting. He says he thinks Luffy's potential could be even greater than Law's, and that's saying something. Man, has a subordinate that actively wants to kill him, and he's still like, oh, we'll send her along.
Yeah. that's how little of a crap Doflamingo gives
about her trying to kill him.
Yeah, okay. And it's great. I as chaotic as this scene is, as sort of like our first big like setup moment for Doflamingo as a villain, like I couldn't be happier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's quite good. Yeah. But we next move to check on Team Brownbeard, and I love Team Brownbeard bust. I still love that name.
Yeah, and I love Zoro just hands around the back of his head. He's just chilling.
He's even tougher than the big one. He's a slippery little bugger. And meanwhile, this dragon setting everything on fire.
Yeah, and they're just watching the world burn, and it's kind of like, if it lights up one of those tanks, like it'll blow the walls down and send all the killer gas inside. So we kind of do need to do something about this. I do kind of think this whole section is one of those scenes that I feel like we needed these characters to do something, but I felt like it was just kind of whatever.
Yeah, like it's cute to kind of have this rivalry between Brook and Kinemon, because Brook has been insulted because the dragon didn't want to eat him because he was nothing but bones.
Which would be funny, but he ripped off that joke from Strong World, so I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It would have been funnier if they did it first, but
true.
Alas.
And, they've got that whole aspect. But then I do like this. It's like, I like the idea of while these two are arguing, here comes Nami getting something done where she's trying to pretend to be a samurai, or you mean ninja. Anyway.
Yeah.
And unleashes Thunder Trap on the dragon. And that's when, like, Usopp's like, oh, I can get in on this. It's like, here's the world's stinkiest flower with the Rafflesia.
Although I do love that even Kinemon, who is from Wano, is like, you could use ninjutsu?
Yes. And the names for each of the Straw Hats is great. We got Breastband Girl for Nami, the Long-Nosed Goblin for Usopp.
And he wields sorcery.
And then Robin, who uses their giant hands to hold the dragon's wings. Even the courtesan knows ninjutsu, and she just like has this don't push it.
Oh, he's from a different time.
Yes. But down comes the dragon, unleashes fire on Kinemon, and Brook, of course, doesn't work because the Kinemon's able to slice through it. And Zoro is still lounging. He's like, still able to cut fire. That's when the two of them just cut through the dragon, finish it off, and that's it.
I do want to point out with the sequence, at least, because we've seen kind of bits and pieces of it, but this was the scene that kind of reminded me of it the most. But it's sort of a fun translation thing where I feel like the translator was able to kind of capture the old timey, like Kinemon speaks in a very like classical Japanese kind of way.
Yeah.
So I feel like we are kind of closest equivalent is the way that he's just like, my word.
Or I'll finish it off. Nay, it is mine.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, I think it's fun.
Good characterization on his part.
Yeah.
But yeah, they defeat the dragon, and they're so insulted by it that they just start kicking it while it's down.
Yeah. I feel like that whole scene was just to establish, because they're both kicking it, and is of course Brook is offended, and he's just kind of like, why do you hate dragons? He's kind of like, or like, you speak of dragons as though you must avenge your parents against them, and he's just kind of like, yeah.
Yeah, you're pretty much right. It's like, oh.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, and that certainly ties into later chapters. But they go a little further, and that's when they spot Chopper in his monster form dealing with the kids.
He's just one of the most bizarre panels.
Yeah, it's like, I feel like we missed something because the last we saw was him just running off with his medicine. Yeah. And then all of a sudden he's fighting kids. It's like, what?
It seems like the things didn't go smoothly.
No. But we also go to an examination room where the kids were, and this girl asks, hey, what happened to that boy? What boy? The one who went into the Forbidden Secret room and turned into a little dragon, Momonosuke. And that's our first little hint about Momonosuke being a thing. It's like, wait, dragon, what? And why does Kinemon have an issue with them? It certainly gets you wondering. Though I will say, because of being aware of Momonosuke, I was aware that he has a dragon devil fruit. But I don't know I will say there were stuff about him that I did not know. That's cool. I certainly some surprises in this, even though I knew that little fact. It's like, oh, cool. I never know the whole story.
Yeah, we'll get into that. You definitely don't know the whole story.
No. But yeah, we do have an SBS where they actually, like, somebody actually questioned the walk. We were like, what is up with that walk? Or that run that Zoro and Sanji and Kinemon and Brook were doing. And there's like, that's the Daba Daba run. It's the old school manga and anime use that to effect all the time. You don't see it that much these days, though. It's just a reference to that old stuff. It's like Oda trying to keep the classics alive. Speaking of, somebody noticed the origin of Kinemon and Momonosuke's names, taken from the old-time movie star Kenosuke Nakamura. And this is the most interesting here. This made me laugh. It's like, yes, you're correct. He was a star of period movies, and I'm a huge fan. You know what? How about I tease a little something coming ahead? Luffy and his crew will go to Wano in the future. I've been dying to draw this story for ages. I'll probably slip in a whole lot of my personal interest in that one. It's just like, knowing what I know, we are so far from this point.
Yeah, how does it feel to hear in the year of our Lord, like 2012, to have Oda basically say, yeah, we're gonna go eventually.
Yeah,
Thanks.
it's coming ahead, and I don't know when Wano started, but I know we have, I think, approximately like 200-ish chapters before we reach that point. So, 4-ish years, 5-ish years before we hit Wano.
Yeah. You're in the ballpark.
I'm just guesstimating on that one. It's
yeah,
like, oh
yeah.
my God.
I do love that. You can, and not to, I can confirm. When Oda says that he's going to slip in a lot of his personal taste, you can feel it. You can feel his love for just samurai movies and that, and you see it here with with Kinemon. I feel like he's really he's putting his love for all that sort of thing.
It's fun. I like to see Oda put his personal tastes in there.
Yeah,
he likes giant robots. That was like, oh, okay, Oda. It definitely confirms about how he had a plan at the beginning and then it just got expanded upon.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and get to chapter 683, An Icy Woman. And just as Caribou is about to be burned at the stake, hey, it's a good thing at least for Caribou that Jinbei only ran from Koribu, because here's Koribu to save the day.
Good luck. They've got a lot of fire.
Yes, they do. So we'll see how that all goes. But we get into the chapter itself, and interestingly, this minion of Caesar's is like, wait, a child who transformed into a dragon? Where'd you hear this? Oh, I saw it happen. I didn't tell anyone since it was the secret room, but I was worried for him since he came here on the same boat. They're like, oh, well, he's fine. We have many medical rooms. He's just being kept in a different spot. So it's like,
suspicious.
Yeah, I'm like, is he eating now? Why wouldn't he eat anything? It's like, oh, he's eating. He's just fine. But you need to keep news of the secret room hush hush from the other kids. And I feel like having read the later stuff, it feels like this is just platitudes, that they still don't know anything actually about Momonosuke.
Yeah.
From what we've seen.
Very much so.
But we check in on the fight between Luffy and Monet, and she has encased him in a 10-layer igloo. It's the same igloo defense, just 10 times as thick. So it's like, hey, you're just buying time. I'm going to smash this thing to pieces in seconds. This is pointless. It's like, I'm not going to lose to Alexa. It's like, no, I can't imagine beating you. But battle prowess and winning and losing are different things, aren't they? And she's all of a sudden like hugs Luffy with her wings, and it just turns her body into ice. And it's like, no, I've got you now. You're not going to have the strength to break free soon enough. It will sap your stamina. So just sleep and be at peace. And he's about to nod off, and he's just like, no, I can't let this happen. And does a jet spear through the floor, which
it just drops.
I love the way Luffy's like, again, you're seeing his battle prowess about dealing with this sort of thing. It's like, can't go up, we're going down.
Which I don't know how much. I don't know if he knew where he was going. It seems he kind of got. It looks like a trash compactor almost.
Yeah, that didn't work out the way you thought, because it's the trash dump way underground with no real easy way to come back up unless he can fly. So mission still accomplished for Monet.
Yeah, well, I guess we've now hit the part of the arc where Luffy is out of commission.
It's like, this is the equivalent to Luffy getting eaten by the snake.
Yeah. We're at this part,
which is fairish, but he's not lost to Caesar. He just hasn't been able to get a hold of the Caesar, which fits. Yeah, which is gas.
He's slippery. Although, I could imagine reading this weekly like. It's kind of a pain, because now at this point he's slipped out twice.
It's the same sort of idea of like how you can, if you read weekly, get frustrated with him trying to get to Enel way back then. Because I remember being frustrated with that in the anime. So it's just like, just let him get there. He's trying, and he just keeps getting sent back, and it's so repetitious. And I don't think it's reached that point yet, because it's changed the way it's done it. Because we saw the threat of Caesar the first time. The second time, it got introduced to the threat of what Monet can do. Yeah,
which is, I think, important to establish.
Yes. If it happens a third time, though, but I don't think so.
I would be shocked with how we're coming up on the end. Like, we're not that far, so I feel like the third time's the charm. Rule of threes and all that.
Right. But Chopper in his monstrous form is like, he's letting out his roar, and he's basically trying to intimidate the kids. It's like, I know it's hard. You have to be strong, but you can't eat that candy ever again. If you want to go home, you have to stop eating it, and you can't go to the biscuits room. And one of the kids says, "Ow, you're hurting me." He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And as soon as he lets the kid go, he whacks him in the leg with a pipe. It's just like,
these kids are fearless.
Yeah, they are just beating the heck out of Chopper. And God, we realize that he only bulked up in order to keep these kids from getting by. But again, he only has 3 minutes to do this, and it wears off. He's left motionless again. And it's so bad that the kids immediately start rushing past him, and one of them even steps on him.
Poor Chopper.
It sucks for him. But the others come in. Nami grabs hold of Chopper. It's just like, okay, what's going on? Explain the situation. It's like, I'm so glad you're here. I can't hold him back. He's trying to turn them into huge, violent soldiers. So we need to stop these kids and don't let them get down to the biscuit room because that's where the candy is. So Robin steps in and brings out her giant hands to hold him back. So it's like, okay, we got our next line of defense, and Chopper's able to relay, hey, there's a girl named Mocha who's kept her senses and helped me out, but she's in danger now, watching over the candy in the room, so we can't let these kids do anything to her.
Yeah.
Which, it's cool that we do have that. But this is also that thing, it's like, I wish, we don't need it because it's only like little conversation pieces, but it's like, I don't know, it has the side effect of feeling rushed.
I would have preferred if this scene were longer than like take out the dragon fight like entirely. It's filler. I think it's almost completely pointless. Other than to there could have been a dozen other smoother ways to say, oh yeah, Kinemon doesn't like dragons. Like that could have been
a second point, as we'll see later. But it's like less time on the dragon, more time on what's going on with Chopper and these kids. And granted, it's a chance to show that, hey, even the other crew members can defeat a dragon, but still.
Yeah.
Like, usually I'm all about that. It's like, yeah, let them have their time to shine.
Yeah, but like the kids are kind of a really integral part of the story, and they kind of got sidelined for a few chapters, it felt like that whole subplot was sort of set aside for a bit until now it's really important again.
Yeah, and at least they're back in that vicious nature where they're just so desperate for the candy at this point, because they went to the examination room. They still have not had the candy since they got taken away. So the withdrawal symptoms are just worse, to the point that they're biting Robin's giant hand, in order to get by it.
Yeah.
She is actually taking some damage from this. And that's when they see Mocha with the candy. It's like, you can't have it. It's bad candy. You know, we asked everybody for help, so we can't go home if we don't listen to them. And Chopper's like, no, you got to get out of here. And she tries to run away. And that's when Monet shows up, having blocked the other way out with her ice.
Well, so now we're trapped here.
Yep. And Usopp's like, hey, that's the bird woman I was telling you about. And
oh, yeah, I remember 30 chapters ago.
That's where we end there. But we get back to the SAD manufacturing room, and again, we miss something where all of a sudden Virgo's here, and Lal and him are fighting. Like, he puts in the room, he's trying to return the heart. He gets it back in his hand, but he's too slow to get it actually in his body. And Virgo kicks him away and grabs the heart back and starts squishing it a little bit.
Yeah, and just kind of goes to town on Lal.
Yeah, and it's like, it's disappointing to have this scene where Lal is looking so intimidating, so maniacal, to go back to him getting his butt kicked by Virgo.
Yeah.
And that's the frustrating thing for me, is like the transition to that feels off, I guess.
Yeah. And it's weird because I feel like we are now 2 for 2, right? Where like we kind of hit this point in Fishman Island as well, where you really are like Oda starts skipping stuff. He's like, all right, we got to get moving. And it's like, well, that's nice and all, but it feels like these past couple arcs maybe aren't using their time the most effectively.
The flow feels off. Like, I know that,
yeah, definitely in this section the flow feels super off.
I know past arcs have had minor instances of this, but this feels the most egregious. I think even worse than Fishman Island.
Yeah, I mean, just like hold on, because I feel like we gotta break this down a bit. Like, just the amount of things that are happening simultaneously right now. You have Law and Virgo, right? You have, Luffy is, was fighting
Caesar and Monet.
Caesar and Monet, and is now on his own. We now have the rest of the Straw Hats with the kids, basically. That's 3.
Smoker's running around somewhere.
Yeah, Smoker's running around somewhere.
Sanji's with G5.
And G5, yeah, G5 and Tashigi. So we have basically like 5 of all little like factions and subplots all kind of running around at the same time. Balancing that for anybody would be a huge challenge. And so I kind of get it that like some things are going to end up falling by the wayside and maybe aren't going to be like super clean, but then maybe don't have, 5 different groups of people all running around.
Yeah, I get the idea, but it struggles. Like there's a lot of factions running around with Skypiea. Like like the Straw Hats were separated and like just coming into random fights. But I think it helps that they were all individualized. Like there weren't groups in a lot of those cases. They were on their own and dealing with things. I don't know. It felt cleaner in a way, but I think it also helps that I think a giant forest in all the cloud stuff is generally more interesting than a bunch of laboratory settings.
Yeah, and we've now hit the part of the story arc where it's just like everybody's in the lab. We were, because I feel like we were all super down for it when it was like, oh, you got the hot part and the cold part, and we got all these mysteries laying together. That stuff I think is like when Punk Hazard is at its strongest, but now kind of here, like I should be excited, that the action has kind of broken loose, and that's, we're kind of barreling towards the climax, but it does feel like we're just getting a little bit of a lot of things, and that kind of makes it feel a little less satisfying.
It's interesting to have this fight between Law and Virgo, because it does feel so desperate for Law, and you got some interesting choreography here. Where, again, seeing more of Virgo's powers, where he just hockeys his arm and then just whams on Law's face, knocks off his hat. And I don't like him without his hat. He looks a little too generic without his hat.
I'll give you that. That's fair.
He even tries this thing called countershock, which it's hard to say what that does. And it sounds like this electricity bolt. But again, he's like a friggin' Terminator, where he's like, oh, I have a message from Joker. What a shame. And he's like, it didn't work.
Yeah. And again, the Terminator comparison I think is pretty apt. Just the way that it feels like he's just impossible to get through. And from what we can tell, it seems like it's all hockey.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like we have a fight, like he doesn't even have a devil fruit. Like it looks like he's just coating himself in hockey and is just able to kind of manhandle whoever he comes across.
It really feels like I don't think he has a devil fruit at all. I feel like we would have seen this part other than the metal, but I think he just has really strong hockey, defensive hockey, hardened armament hockey, I guess. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And Law's just like, oh, I knew exactly how to get my heart back from Caesar, but my only failure was not predicting your arrival. And yeah, he just starts squishing his heart even more. And I feel like he's probably just going to crush it right then and there. And that's when he just senses somebody else, like, oh, I'm indisposed. Can I wait? Smoker. Like, yeah, I did cheer at this moment, because we were saying last time, it's like, I want Smoker versus Virgo, and we're actually getting it.
Yes. Yeah. This one feels like it had to come,
Yeah. So that's how we end off, was it's the confrontation between Smoker and Virgo. Heck yeah.
Yep.
We do have an SBS. It's all just perverted stuff.
Yeah. Well, I do think it's worth asking. Does the color of armament does it work? Does it work on your penis? Yes.
Yes. Like all those questions. Yes.
Yeah.
Also, why didn't Law target that part instead of the heart? That seems way more effective. Well, I can't really have that flying around. It's more visually interesting to have hearts be captured and delivered to the Navy. It's a little
fair enough.
It's a little more perverted if you send the other thing.
Oh dear.
All right. Well, let's get to chapter 684. Don't do it, Vegapunk. And well done, Oda. Well done. Like, I don't care who wins, but it is like you found like the two despicable people fighting it out, where it's Caribou Pirates versus Naval G5, and there's Corbu hitting what's his name with a shovel. It's like, okay, cool, whatever.
This is hilarious. I'm all for it. And just seeing just Caribou getting burned at the stake in the background is just so funny to me.
Yeah, this has turned out way better than I thought it would so far.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we start up the chapter, and yeah, we're right into it. It's Smoker versus Virgo.
I got a little giddy seeing this. Just the way that, Smoker doesn't kind of know what's going on here. He's just kind of like, this place looks mighty ominous. It's like it's nothing you need to know about. It's like, well, okay.
Is like, hey, I don't want the normal guys to learn about the truth about you. They worship you like a father. If they knew you were a traitor, it's like, oh no, I met him on the way here. What'd you do to him? Oh, you'll see. And that's enough to set it off.
Yep.
It's like, oh, you actually care about those outcasts? It's like, no, I do as I please. And then we get to see the weird application of his hockey where he like blows into his bamboo stick and I don't know, it sends out some sort of explosive against Smoker. But, Smoker smoke and is able to try to get around him and hit him with his club. But no, Virgo just, again, arms behind his back. No, not really any real concern. Just dodges it completely and then just unleashes a kick to block him. It's like, holy crap, Virgo. It's why I'm so friggin' curious about what his rank is within the, Doflamingo's pirates. Because if he's number 2, that makes him, that's impressive on there that they're taking him on now. But if he isn't number 2, oh God, who is number 2? And we actually get to this is already the caliber of his crew. Like, holy crap.
Definitely. If anything, Virgo is definitely like consistently, a force to be reckoned with, right? Like,
he definitely seems he's definitely a step above. I'd be shocked if they said he's the weakest. One of those things. It's like, you defeated this guy. Shame he was my weakest member or something like that.
Probably not. Is how I'm not 100% sure.
Based on what we've seen in the others, I highly doubt that's the case.
Yeah. I don't know how high up he is relative to the rest of Doflamingo's crew, though. But the speech from Smoker, though, after there's kind of a lull in the fight, I think is awesome. Where he's just like, I don't care if you're the base, you are the base commander. Like, away from the base, the captain is responsible for their lives. You're not laying a finger on my soldiers. And just like that payoff of just him, because again, he's kind of like a father to him.
Yeah, very much so. And I love this. We actually see Smoker use hockey with his fist, and that was awesome.
It does.
But hey, speaking of G5, they've reached the spot where the Straw Hats fought the dragon.
Yep.
And just like, why is everything on fire? What's going on here? It's like, and I love how Sanji's already leading the charge. It's like, all right, well, let's get the wounded forward, but more importantly, keep Tashigi safe. It's like, yeah.
Yeah. I love too, God, because again, just a couple chapters ago, he's like, oh, I don't need you men to worry about me. And now he's just like, all right, we're all going to simp for Tashigi together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I love that she's like, don't try to play nice, we're enemies, remember? Sanji's like, that's just what society tells us.
I'm a pirate, I'm free to do whatever I want.
That's great.
And of course the others start like, yeah, I mean, my heart nearly skipped a beat for you, even if you are a guy. It's like, I don't want male support. And Tashigi's like, hey, don't do that, he's a pirate.
This whole dynamic is so good. It's great.
Very, very fun character interaction here. But here's the second point for the importance of fighting that dragon and having the dragon cause all that havoc. The tank actually did explode, and sure enough, busted a hole in the wall. So here comes the gas.
And some of the G5 guys got.
Yeah, they did. And it's this point, like when I saw this, it's like, this must be where I left off with the gas is chasing Sanji type thing. But that's the funny thing. Again, I remember nothing else. All these amazing reveals and character bits, and I know nothing. And I'm willing to declare at this point, honestly, it probably was 2 episodes ago, I'm in brand new stuff here. I might as well.
It's all new.
I've seen nothing coming for the last 2. I've only been holding out to look for this thing of Sanji running from the gas, and I'm essentially there.
I think that's what this is. Yeah.
Honestly, it just makes me feel more sad. It's like, man, how bad is my memory that I forgot all this other stuff?
Well, to be fair, this was a decade ago.
True. It's so funny. I remember the other stuff so vividly, the early stuff, but this, nope.
Yep.
It didn't stick with me. The most recent
I guess if you were just, I guess it would if you were just, reading week to week. So
yeah, I think that's the issue. I do prefer this method, or week to week is tough.
I think for me, this is kind of a tangent, but like I've been better about weekly lately. Now that I have people to talk about it with, so because I'm recalling details, so I'm not just like absorbing it and then it just kind of goes off into the ether or whatever. But like actually kind of being a part of discussion actually does help me retain information, I think, a little bit better.
I think that's why we've remembered so much this time around, because we've talked about all this so often.
Yeah. Like while I was reading, Punk Hazard for the first time, I was I was retaining very little from week to week. It felt like,
and that's the like, it's really easy to binge One Piece, but I think a lot of it just kind of slips through.
Yeah,
at least in a lot of cases, because there's so much going on, and I don't know if you quite remember it all.
Yeah, I've definitely had that happen with friends who have binged One Piece, and then like there might be like details that they don't quite latch on to, because you're just absorbing so much of it all at once that you may not recognize, like, oh, this was foreshadowed here, or this or that, like kind of the nitty gritty details. And so I feel like this format for this podcast, again, as I've said like a billion times, like it's a good happy medium.
Yeah, just a small pat on the back.
Yeah.
And we got to get moving. We got to get away from that gas. And all the while, here's Caesar watching a monitor in the secret room on the second floor, in something called Structure R. And it's like, oh, they have to deal with the land of the dead, and I didn't have to do anything. So cool. But my experiment performance isn't complete if they all die this early. So we're gonna extend this a little bit. So what we're gonna do is shut the gates to structures C and D, and just leave the way to R66 open. That way they all get funneled into the proper location. So basically, I think at this point, Smoker and Law are sealed off from the others.
I think so.
I think those fights they won't. I think it feels like the fights at least that fight won't get affected by the gas coming in. It looks like everybody else will, based on how he describes it. Because I'll be honest, this is another one of the weaknesses. Like, oh God, which I know Oda has maps, but because it has two floors and all this other stuff, it feels like hard to grasp onto.
Yeah. That I feel like I have a very poor sense of place in this section of Punk Hazard. So like I honestly I'll admit, like it kind of just washes over me after a certain point.
Like I was trying to figure it out, but I'm like looking at it like it wasn't quite clicking yet. But
yeah, and I think like having maps is one thing, but I think having and it feels almost like level design in a video game almost, where it's like you want to have places to have sort of like memorable. You can have the map, but like you're not gonna. You need like sort of a memorable location or a memorable,
B, C, D, and R mean nothing to me.
Yeah, exactly. Like I know the SAD is, I think, the one part that is like the easiest to remember and easiest to like see off the top. The other rooms, though, I'm kind of completely lost.
That's fair. It's almost more important that it's all about this speech from
yes, very
Caesar.
much so.
He's like, I hate this room, this secret room. Big deal. Why are we in Vegapunk's former command room? I thought you hated him. And they're like, we hate Vegapunk. He's the one that caused that accident 4 years ago. We've got a score to settle with him. So why aren't we fighting? He's like, no, you're my backup plan. I don't want any unnecessary bloodshed, which of course touches them.
Uh-oh.
That's not good for them. But yeah, it's like, okay, so this is Vegapunk's room. Very, very interesting there. And again, we get the whole funnel plan, which apparently will funnel Smoker and Law as well at some point. There's no escape there. It's a giant gas chamber with all the doors locked. So my Shadow Brokers will get a live broadcast of the slaughter, and they'll know my greatness. And that's when one of the guys asks, Caesar, not to question you, but are you saying you made that killer gas? It seems a lot like Vegapunk's gas from 4 years ago, so it gives us the creep. And that's when Caesar puts on those crocodile tears. It's like, This is a scientific battle of vengeance, my beloved followers. I tried to stop the mad scientist Vegapunk on that fateful day. I cried out, what if this weapon explodes? What will happen to the innocent lives? Don't do it, Vegapunk, I pleaded. But it happened all the same. And even now, he still sits atop the Naval Science Division. And he's like, he's considered the greatest, but how can such a heartless man who did this to you be praised as the greatest? They're all touched by that speech.
Yeah. I gotta give Caesar props here for like the way he improvised, where he got asked kind of a hard question and he's just like, no, you see, I am the noble one.
I have to prove it to him by creating a weapon of mass murder to show that there's a greater mind than him. That's why I have to make this.
And then the panel on the next page where he's crying and he's just like, only my dream of world peace can come to fruition.
I can imagine Frieza's voice actor delivering these lines. That's honestly perfect casting.
It is. It's so good.
And they're like, "Oh my gosh, Master, you're so wonderful. We're lowly. You're our God of all salvation." And we get Caesar grinning in that stupid grin of his. And the flashback to what actually happened is where it's other people saying, "Don't do it, Caesar. Shut down the experience. What will happen to all the innocent lives?" It's like,
oh yeah, whatever. Of course, he did it.
Yeah, it's all stuff that was said to him. It's like, this is a military testing facility. We're all here because the Navy wants weapons and a weapon that can kill as many pirates as possible. So, they're like, they don't want a weapon that will kill innocent civilians. Like, that's just collateral damage. They're stupid enough to be there. They get what they deserve. So whatever. What's the difference between the experimentation you're doing on the human scum prisoners on this island? And, and that was, it's like, he's not wrong there with that line.
Yeah. And that's sort of the interesting thing too, right? Cause like Caesar is just like a mustache twirling cartoon villain. But I feel like he kind of has a point sort of calling out the hypocrisy, right? Of like, there are so many other atrocities that are already going on here. So he is really just kind of taking it to its logical extreme. Like, well, if we're going to be killing pirates and if we're going to be killing, if we're going to be experimenting on human scum, the prisoners, like, I don't know, man, all bets are off. So whatever. Yeah. And so obviously that is a horrendous worldview, but like you kind of
people equally, I guess.
Yeah, in a way that is, I kind of find that interesting, right? Rather like he has no sense of justice in the way that he calls Sengoku soft, right? Like,
right.
He's like, oh, but Admiral Akainu on the other hand. So it's just like,
and that's also concerning considering who the fleet admiral is now.
Yes, 100%.
Suddenly Caesar feels a lot more dangerous.
Yeah. So I definitely think there's kind of an underdiscussed, underappreciated aspect of the storytelling here, where there is sort of this aspect of hypocrisy almost, I feel like. And I feel like I can understand why somebody like Caesar would exist and be allowed to exist in this setting. If they're already excusing so many other atrocities under the name of justice and good things. Yeah. So he's just taking advantage of it to do all sorts of horrible things.
And he also really wants to show up Vegapunk.
Yeah. And most importantly, he's petty.
Oh yeah. He's like, I hear his human enlargement experiment failed again. But you know what you got to do? You got to kidnap growing children and pump them full of special drugs. That's how you do it. And that's how he did it. Yeah, that's what he's doing. And we get our first glimpse, kinda, of Vegapunk.
What do you think? What do you think about the silhouette, Derrick?
I can't tell if that the roundish part is a nose or an ear. Like, it feels like it could be a nose with a mustache underneath, but it also could be an ear from the side view. But then there's a elongated what would be the head. So I don't know. I don't know how to interpret that.
My one comment is that silhouette is not inaccurate.
Oh no! Because it feels like there's an arm or something like that coming off. So he might just
I'll
be honest. Looking at that, reminds me of Team 4-Star's unique ending of the World's Strongest.
Oh,
they shoved his brain in there. It's
yes,
like, except it's just vertical. And I'd say that doesn't seem right, but this is Oda. He has a lot of strange body types, so I don't know.
No. I laughed when I saw this.
I am very curious what Vegapunk actually looks like because, well, again, he's been talked about for how long, but this is our one glimpse.
One glimpse, and it's completely in shadow.
It's so like just odd shapes.
You're just kind of like, what am I even looking at?
For sure. And this is what sets Caesar off, and he declares, "You're exiled from the science division. Your shenanigans have gone too far. I can't cover for you." And in defiance, he unleashes the gas, and it causes that massive explosion.
So this all happened just because Caesar is just so petty.
Yep. And the plan has begun, where the CB hallway has been sealed. Structure C is shut off from Structure B. And the DB hallway is sealed. So I think what's going on here is that I thought they were pushing them towards B. It looks like instead they're pushing them towards R. So that's why they cut the connecting to B off. So now D and C can only go to R and B can only go to R as well. So I think I finally understand the plan.
Yeah, but man, is it just, again, even with the maps, you really got to pick it apart.
You really do. But we see them all reacting to this going down with the different teams. And we end with Luffy in the trash dump asking, "Wait, did you just talk? What's up with you?" And we just see this little like Chinese style dragon, like actually saying, it seems like, "Who are you? Who might you be?"
It's funny too, because we opened this arc with a very Western style dragon, and now we have a Chinese dragon.
Yeah. So,
Yep.
All right. Well, let's get to our final chapter for this set. 685. My name is Momonosuke. And we heard about a boy that turned into a dragon. I think we know we finally met him. And again, to be honest there, I had seen little bits again because of Corinne Megami playing Momonosuke. She'd show off the character and show the little dragon boy. It's like, oh, okay. It didn't have meaning to me at that time, but it's now like, oh. And especially after this chapter, oh.
Yeah. Lots to unpack there. But also the color spread for this one's great.
Yeah, there's a lot of, there's not a lot of crazy costumes, although I do love that Luffy's pumpkin on his head actually has a scar underneath his eye like he does.
Yeah, that's a good detail. I love, instead of trick or treat, Zoro's got a bag that says whiskey or beer.
That looks pretty great. I love the Frankenstein mask on Frankie.
Yeah, it's just perfect.
Mm-hmm. And I'm a sucker for that type of hat. And the one that's on Robin, it's like, okay, that's just appealing to me. That it's so weird. That hat does more for me than Nami's dress.
Is it the devil horns?
I know, it's just that style. I don't know what it is. I have no idea why that's always done. I just noticed Luffy's trick or meet.
Yeah, trick. God, that's so good.
This is a great one. I love this one.
Yeah, I love this one too.
And beginning the chapter itself, Momonosuke. Yes, that name is mine. Oh, I think I've heard that before. It's like, yep, this is confirmation. This is Momonosuke. It's like, more importantly, stop drooling at me.
Luffy's just hungry. Yes.
I was like, I'm going to eat this dragon.
And also, of course, again, just the Momonosuke speaking in the same kind of old-timey dialogue as Kinemon. He says, "I'm not your morsel of food. I will devour you whole before you take a bite of me." He's just trying to be intimidating, and he's just adorable.
Yeah, he's small and cute, and he's like,
yeah.
And then Luffy's like, okay, the dragons can't talk, so there should be a Momonosuke talking through his butt stuck on the dragon somewhere. It's like, what are you talking about? Oh, wait, this eel is actually speaking directly to me. It's like, no, stop drooling for one, and I'm not an eel. And all of a sudden it's hungry. It's like, oh, you're hungry too.
Yeah, this dynamic is already great.
It's fun to see Luffy just, I don't know, interact with this dragon, and especially based off his prior experience. But also, we find out that he's been fasting for 10 days. Holy crap. Yep.
Oh, my goodness.
And he asks, like, oh, who are you? And Luffy's like, well, I'm Luffy. I'm going to be king of the pirates. It's like, whoa, what? A pirate? A pirate is a man of ginormous. A pirate is an enormous man, wide of girth and more ferocious and menacing. It's like, Nope.
It's also also interesting that the way that both he and Kinemon kind of react to learning that they're pirates.
Yeah, it certainly makes that curious. What is their past interactions with pirates?
Also, just worth pointing out, Momonosuke in his dragon form is pink.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
We get a little bit of past. It's like, oh, you're not from here either? It's like, And we get a little backstory. It's like, all I know is that this is a facility for ailing waifs and tots, but I know not what kind of island it is or what has become of me. It all began when I was discovered as a stowaway on a ship. And that leads to the initial question. Why was he stowing away? That's sort of the big question here.
How did we get here?
Yeah. And he's basically like, hey, I was trying to keep my distance from the other youngsters, but they were kind to me. And they're like, hey, they'll give you food. So aren't you hungry? He's like, no, I'm a samurai. I do not accept the pity of others. Like, oh, yeah, this is Kinemon's kid.
Yeah. Much like his dad. No one understands my inner turmoil.
And they're all like, you should eat. Like, here's some food. He's like, I don't want any. And it's like, oh, I was so dumb.
Yeah. Although, man, talk about like your way of the samurai kind of saving the day here. That's why he didn't eat the candy. So he just his pride wouldn't let him.
Yeah, it's thank God for that. And he's always been in blackness. We don't actually see what he looks like.
Yeah,
not quite yet. He has a top knot.
Yes, yeah,
but that's and a sword, but that's about it. And he definitely was a stowaway, which he's like, one of the kids escaped, but hey, we still have the full number according to the ship register. Weird. And he's away, wobbling from hunger, and that's when he comes to the secret room. And in the middle of the secret room is a devil fruit.
Mm-hmm.
And he immediately eats it because he is so hungry. But before we get into that, I do need to put a correction up here that I had a few comments actually talking about this. And I would have brought it up at the beginning, but we have a perfect segue here.
Mm-hmm.
So you remember last time how I had the theory of the reason when we saw the transformation of a devil fruit, it became an apple. And I had the theory of like, oh, is that, all devil fruits apples? And that's just specifically them that becomes that because of the whole Adam and Eve aspect. But a lot of people have mentioned like, no, we actually saw that there was a devil fruit that looked like a banana.
Yeah.
In the past. And it's like, no, it is multiple different kinds of fruits.
Yeah. Although I feel like not unintentional that these like, because it's got this, because the devil fruits we've seen, right, all have like different patterns.
Yes.
This is the same pattern as Smiley's.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. It's the
that.
same, and I think it's also an apple, and I think that is on purpose. I don't think I should say why that is, but or if there, like, I think in my brain I think there's an explanation for this, and I don't know when we'll learn it.
Yeah.
Or if it even is a thing.
I have.
So I'm feeling a little like, am I crazy or am I putting things together?
Am I a genius or not? I don't know.
Exactly. Am I cooking?
But that's when we after he eats that's when the little girl that was talking about before that we saw previously is like, oh, so your name is Momonosuke, and this is a forbidden secret room. Is like he's again trying to push her away. It's like, I have business to attend to. I must leave this place. And she's just like, oh, yeah, we're all in the same boat. We just want to see our moms and dads. But we came to get treatment, and we all feel the same way. And, we're all good friends, so we should, help each other out. So be here with us. And that's when the men discover, like, hey, the door to the secret room is open. And she tries to run off and try to have him run off. And they're like, oh, is someone here? And they look as they come in the room, and all of a sudden, Momonosuke is transforming into his dragon form. And they're like, wait, that's a dragon? And like, wait, the glass case is broken open. This is where they kept Vegapunk's artificial devil fruit. And that's awesome. And that's just like, oh my God, he can make devil fruit.
Yeah. How's that for a bomb drop?
Oh my God. I don't. Is that how he's able to feed the things? But apparently this one was a failure, yet it worked for Momonosuke. Presumably.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. There are there is actually a reason why it's a failure.
Oh, there are so many questions here. I have no idea.
Yeah, that is a gag for much later. The answer is really dumb.
I honestly wasn't sure what to expect with Momonosuke, but all these reveals are far more than I ever expected.
Yeah, you really the implications are really, really fun, and there's still, I feel, a couple left in this chapter still that I'm really interested in unpacking. But yeah, now we've got artificial devil fruits are a thing, which I think just keep that in mind, because that'll be a thing.
Oh dear God, that'll be something. I do like this though. It's like at the end of the story, it's like, and thus you see I am human. Oh, it's a devil fruit, so you're an eel man. Why don't you turn back into a human? It's like, wait, I can turn back?
Don't ask me. I'm not a zone type. Yeah, just do it.
I like how Oda. I mean, I love how Luffy's just like, whatever. It's just devil fruit stuff.
Yeah. Basically, so easily. Okay, that's the explanation. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, but I do love this moment where he's the dragon now and he's running off and it's like I've overheard some dreadful things from Caesar. We had thought he was a life-giving doctor, but he's a wicked man who intends to make the children die. And we hear what he overhear is like, the others are enlarging nicely. But of course, the point of this experiment is to find the limits of my drugs. They can't last forever. In another 5 years, this batch of subjects won't be around any longer, so I'll need a fresh refill. And, failure is a part of experimentation and that's necessary sacrifice for my success. So it's like, oh yeah, he planned to kill these kids from the beginning just to push their bodies to the limit.
Luffy's reaction to that, oh boy.
There is such a shift. Like, hearing that pisses him off so much. And, he went to hide in the trash bin, but then he plummeted in here. And Luffy's just like, oh, Caesar, we're climbing out. And this is also the great shift. Before he was just sort of like, okay, I don't need to pay attention to this thing. It's sort of whatever. You're Eely or just eel or whatever. And it's like, no, Momo, we're climbing out. It's like, like instant recognition from Luffy. Like,
yes,
you're with me.
Yeah, Luffy has resolved himself, and I feel like that's always, that's always the interesting kind of the best parts. Like he's like, all right, my crew's got the kids. I don't have to worry about that. I got to go kick Caesar's ass.
Yep. It's like, is this the truth? Then I was like, you're not a pirate. It's like, hey, you've gone too long without food. And somehow him saying, get a grip, sets him off. And we see, as he's saying, get a grip, we see the heavily altered image of Doflamingo. And that feels important.
What were they doing before they got to Punk Hazard?
Exactly. And what was the plan of Kinemon and Momonosuke at this point? Because Momonosuke was a stowaway. Kinemon was presumably just hunting down his son. What is going on here?
Yeah. The answer to those questions are so complicated and interesting. It goes places that you wouldn't expect.
The little seeds that Oda's placing here. This really does feel more like a prologue to...
Yeah, that's kind of what it is. In a lot of ways.
It's a larger version of Jaya, almost.
Yeah, indeed.
Just a lot more going on with its own villain, so yeah.
It's funny how much, like, we kind of saw this too, even before, but now here in this arc, it's like, man, Doflamingo's, his influence is everywhere. Like, everybody's got beef with Doflamingo.
Yeah. You kind of get the sense that if he wasn't a warlord, he might be able to become an emperor.
His connections are that deep, certainly.
Yeah, I think he just prefers warlord because he can get those government connections. He likes having that hold.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're onto something there for sure, though. I think Doflamingo is a character who understands his place in this world and is just completely comfortable with that, and is just gonna do whatever he, will do whatever it takes to keep that position.
Yeah, but this panic attack sets off Momonosuke, and they start flying. So there's their way out.
Oh,
presumably
not not only oh my god,
What?
not only are they flying, but the clouds will be explained later.
I was going to say, I saw the clouds, and
Yeah.
it looks like he's actually grabbing onto the clouds in order to fly. Like he's able to make, but I don't see where they're being emitted from, so that's why I'm a little unsure of what to think about those.
We'll come back to that in like 400 chapters.
Oh, of course, of course.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's a thing. Of course, it's a thing. It's always a thing, Oda. Oh my god.
Of course. Oh my! But we've split up even further because Nami and Zoro have gone off on their own, and our other group is Brook, Kinemon, and Usopp, who are in search of Sea Prism Stone and Momonosuke. Basically, obviously, they want the Sea Prism Stone so they can actually capture Caesar.
Yeah, which seems to be kind of a problem.
Yeah. And I do like this where they're running and they have Brook using his soul form, so Kinemon's just carrying him and he's just looking through the wall to make sure if things are okay and trying to find this
Yeah,
stuff.
that ability of Brooks is really handy.
Yeah. Oh, God, I say it all the time, but I'm as somebody who left off without knowing what Brooks' part in the crew was, it's so nice to see him have that part.
Yes.
But then we go to back to the SAD room, and the fight between Smoker and Virgo is still going on. Law's just sort of watching it and get this amazing hockey elbow into Virgo's face, but who knows how that's going to go. But it's definitely an all-out fight. And then we go to the near the Biscuits room where Tashigi's group is. And Sanji's kicking at the G5 members to get them move faster. Again, it's like this is probably closest to what I remember. I don't know. I don't remember the room being this open, but whatever. It doesn't matter anymore. We're beyond where I left off. That's all that matters.
Yeah, for sure.
So the land of the dead is much closer to them. But then, they've got I forgot the Chopper's with Nami as well because Chopper can't move, so Nami's holding him. But they're confronting. They have the kids there as well. It's like, don't eat the candies, run for it, Mocha. Oh God, why'd the Snow Lady have to show up and use her powers when I took off my coat?
Yeah, fair enough.
I was interested. Like, I really hope this is the full length of the fight for this because it seems so interesting. We've seen Nami fight other women before, and I'm trying to think of the last time Robin had a one-on-one fight, and I honestly think it was Skypiea.
I think it was Skypiea, yeah.
So I'm like, yes, give me Robin versus Monet. That sounds awesome. But I don't think that's going to happen because Zoro says, oh, she's a Logia type. I'll handle this. You guys get the kids under control. I'm like, damn it.
Yeah. We need the rest of the Straw Hats to have hockey.
Yeah. I mean, I feel for Robin because she does get stabbed through the shoulder by Monet. Like Monet's proving to be way more effective than I would have thought.
Definitely, yeah. But now I feel like if Zoro's taking charge,
you don't see Zoro fight women too often. That's for sure. So
that's also true.
Fascinating in that way, but. And poor Mocha is running with the candy away from the other kids, and it's just like, oh no.
Yeah.
But that's how we end it. It's going to be apparently Zoro versus Monet, and the time until the Land of the Dead fills Structure B is about 20 minutes. So time is running out.
Time's a ticking.
Yep. We do have an SBS with seeing all the Impel Down characters as kids. Hannibal, Magellan, Sadie, Saldeth, and Domino. Which nothing to really say about any of those. It's just cute.
Poor Sadie had to bury her cat.
Yeah, maybe that explains her future. Or something like that.
I do like that Hannibal is always a freak.
Yeah, he always was just a freak, and apparently Magellan's had his devil fruit for a long time.
Yeah, which I guess it maybe explains his mastery of it. Well, I say mastery, but he's still on the toilet half the day, so
yeah. The other thing we see is what would happen if Lola ate the slip fruit, and he's like, she's not that much different. If you ask me, her skin is much smoother though. And I like the fact that the hat actually fits.
Oh yeah, so that is her actual proper size of her head.
Yes, it's it's nice. Honestly, it's a cute look.
Yeah.
But we stand Lola here no matter what.
Absolutely.
Coming away from this set after talking about it, it still very, very much feels uneven. But I'm happy I was able to figure out sort of like Caesar's plan of gassing everyone and there was only 2 instances of things skipping ahead. But there's still a lot of good stuff here between the artificial devil fruit, the finally meeting Momonosuke, seeing Doflamingo's crew.
God, yeah, the Doflamingo scene was maybe one of my favorites in this whole section. Because I feel like it's kind of unexpected. Even though he's behind everything, it's like, oh, we have to deal with everybody else before we even start thinking about Doflamingo. And here he is taking a phone call and he's just kind of like, no, yeah, we got it. Like, it's cool, man. It's chill. And just like it's great characterization for him. There's a lot of stuff there that I think it'll come into play later. You know, I feel like it's a good show of his personality, and so I love that.
I'm looking forward to it, and I am coming out of this a little bit more positive than when I went into it.
Yeah,
I think I recognizing the strong points more.
Yeah, definitely. And for me, it's definitely more like, oh yes, this is the part of Punk Hazard that I think is just kind of annoying. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm surprised. It's like, oh yeah, I remember. This is still confusing. It's kind of.
I guess the big question for us, because we do know that the arc ends around 700, so basically means 15 more chapters, and the question is, how much of it is conflict and how much of it is wrap up? I don't know. That's the big question for me, is like, I don't know how much is actually left of the fight, but then what's the wrap up going to be like? Because obviously we're going to have a reason to go to Dressrosa. What's that reason going to be?
Yeah, that's also true. Yeah, we do kind of need a reason. So yeah, I think I mostly remember how things kind of shake out at this point, but I'm interested to see if there are any more twists or turns. But either way, like, regardless, we're a few episodes away from just an entirely new story arc for Derrick.
Yeah. You can also kind of tell the different way I'm talking about this stuff, because before I was being like sly, I was like, we go here just for other new people. But now I'm completely in the dark, other than knowing
yeah. And the hows and whys are definitely the more interesting parts. And we're getting into some of the really good stuff. It really feels like things are coming together. And
I'm so happy that I could be like aware of the character of Momonosuke for so long now, but still find and know that he's a dragon, but still have so many surprises around him in just one chapter.
Yeah. I was gonna say we have not even scratched the surface.
So that's exciting for me. I also had the thought, as I was reading through this, I thought that Momonosuke had always had the dragon fruit, which I was taking notice of times where it seemed like Kinemon was like a dragon, where like, oh, he might be concerned that like they're killing dragons, they're fighting dragons. It might be his son, but no, that's not the reason, it turns out.
I wonder if because based on the timing of things, I don't think Kinemon knows that Momonosuke is a dragon.
He definitely does not, which is definitely going to lead to some conflict.
Which also begs the question again, like what's his beef with dragons then?
Very true.
Very true. Yeah. Oh boy.
I'm excited. Welcome. I'm willing to declare it since I've seen something similar to the last scene. Welcome to the new world.
Indeed.
This is brand new territory for me.
New content, baby.
So with that, I believe we've said all we've wanted to say about chapters 681 to 685 of One Piece. Thank you so much for listening, and you can find more of my ramblings and stream VODs over at BitNerd Games on YouTube, or simply BitNerd on BlueSky. And Brandon, where can everyone find you at?
I'm Brandon Bovia on Twitter and BlueSky, talking about anime, manga, games, and my job. And just ready to read more Punk Hazard next week.
Absolutely, I'm so excited.
Yeah,
now.
Despite kind of our misgivings,
I get to really look forward to each of these recordings now.
I feel like despite kind of being so on some of the stuff, like we're coming out of this with some energy.
So, yeah, if you'd like to help us out more, you can support the podcast over at patreon.com/Derrick Bittner. That's DerrickBitner to listen to the next episode ad-free 3 days early, as well as patron-exclusive bonus episodes. Our second bonus episode was a ranking, a tier list of all the pre-time skip arcs. So that was a lot of fun to do. And our third bonus episode is going to be us talking about, I believe it's called Fan Letter?
Yeah, One Piece fan letter.
One Piece fan letter, which is something newer that I know very little about, other than it takes place around Return to Spody Fishman Island. So we're in the clear to actually see it. So
yeah,
a lot of people were praising it, and I'm looking forward to checking it out.
I only really am aware of it because of the staff, and that makes me very excited.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
And make sure to return next time as we discuss chapters 686 to 690 of One Piece. So until then, my friends, bye.
Remember to take life one piece at a time.
They say misfortune never comes alone. Oh. So my misfortune is gonna be his next.